Hey, how's it going, guys? My name is Alex McLeod. In this video, I'm going to answer the question, how do I become a Buddhist? This question wasn't requested by anyone in particular, but I have received it as a question on multiple occasions and thought it was a good idea to make a video about it so that I could just direct people here rather than answering it over and over and over again. If you'd like to request a topic or an answer to a question, you can leave your question or topic suggestion in the comments section down below. And if you'd like to help us reach more people, please leave a like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. When His Holiness the Dalai Lama was asked, how does one become a Buddhist? His response was essentially that you should not become a Buddhist, but instead you should learn from the Buddhist teachings how to be a better Christians or Muslims or whatever you already are. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I do understand the sentiment. Eastern religions and traditions have a kind of mystique to them when it comes to those of us who grew up in the West. And a lot of people have grown up dissatisfied or have become dissatisfied since growing up with their birth religion or birth traditions. But it's important that when you're changing religions or choosing a new tradition, or you need to make sure that you're not doing it as an escape, and instead you're doing it because you sincerely understand what that religion or tradition is about and feel that it can help you achieve what it is you want from a religion or tradition. And I think what the Dalai Lama was trying to do was dissuade people who were just trying to run away from Christianity, basically. And that's good. They should be dissuaded if they're just running away. But if you're running to something, it's okay to run to something. If you know what you want, it's okay to go after it, you know? And there are, even if you're running towards something, you need to know what it is you're running towards. And people have a lot of misconceptions about what it is that a Buddhist really is. For instance, they think that Buddhists are all vegetarian, they all shave their heads, they're pacifists, they meditate all day. And in general, that's just not true. Even the monks of the Pali traditions, the older traditions, there are two sets of teachings from the Buddha, basically. There are those that were taught in Pali, or those that were preserved in the Pali language, and those that were preserved in the Sanskrit language. And the Pali language is definitely the set that was written down first. And so these are definitely older traditions. The monks of those traditions are beggars. And according to the rules that the Buddha gave them, if someone offers them meat when they are doing their begging rounds, they have to eat it, regardless of what's offered to them. If it's put in their bowl, they have to eat it. That's how they sustain themselves, and they are not allowed to make special requests of food. because they're beggars. And the Buddha was noticing a lot of his followers were making trouble with the people that they were begging from. So he instituted that rule. Monks of those traditions are not vegetarian, because if someone offers them meat during their alms round, they have to eat the meat. Now, when it comes to pacifism, there were entire temples in China, and I'm presuming also Tibet, because there are stories of warrior lamas, but there were entire temples filled with warrior monks in China. The most famous of them is the Shaolin Temple. There were warrior monks there. And you can't be a warrior if you're not allowed to make war. So pacifism is not necessarily a trait of a Buddhist. Now, they do lean heavily that way, but it's not necessarily the same thing. Meditating all day. Even monks, whose job it is to meditate, whose job it is to practice and cultivate spiritually, that's not all they do all day. They also work. They beg if they're part of those traditions. They garden if they're part of a different tradition. They build things if they're part of, for instance, the Vietnamese monks near us, or nuns, I guess. They grow food, they do carpentry, they fix things, and that's because, and as part of their tradition, when it came over from wherever it came from to Vietnam, it morphed. Everywhere Buddhism has gone, it's morphed a little bit. And so if you're going to eat on the temple's food, you have to work. That's their rule. So it's not meditation all day, even for the professionals. And for the monks, usually they also have to spend a lot of time memorizing sutras, various scriptures. They need to know them by heart in some traditions. They don't necessarily need to know them all by heart in all of the traditions, but there is a lot of time spent memorizing these things. So it's not all meditation, and it's not all pacifism, it's not all vegetarianism. It's just much more diverse than that. And as for the shaving the head thing, that's generally only monks do that. And I'm not a monk, but I do find that a shaved head feels much nicer. Although I will let mine grow out on occasion. It's just, with me, it has absolutely nothing to do with this. So it just so happens that I shaved just before this video. And there are a bunch of different traditions in the Buddhist, in the overall umbrella of Buddhism. And the differences between these traditions is mostly just about practices that they use for cultivation and the lifestyle of the monks. And that's really the major differences between these different traditions. Most of the lay people generally just give food or money to the temples and participate in various various events, ceremonies, etc. You know, not big differences between how the lay people live. The main thing that makes a Buddhist, though, is that they, there's three main things. There's the Four Noble Truths. They follow the Eightfold Path, and they take refuge in the three jewels. And the Four Noble Truths is the first sermon that the Buddha taught after his enlightenment. And that's basically the secret of life and why life is dissatisfying for everyone, basically. It consists of dukkha, samudaya, nirodha, and magga, and in a later video I will go over what all of that means. But for this video, how to become a Buddhist, that's not important. You just should probably know this because before you decide to become a Buddhist, because it's foundational. As for the Eightfold Path, you have right view, right resolve or intention, right speech, right conduct, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right samadhi. And again, I can go into this in a later video if necessary, but you should at the very least look into understanding what these things mean before you decide to become a Buddhist. And then the main thing that makes one a Buddhist is the refuge in the three jewels. And the three jewels are the Buddha, that is the teacher that brought the teachings on how to achieve liberation, the Dharma, which is the teachings, and the Sangha, which is the group of people who have achieved liberation and those who have at least seen the path there. And I know that it's a little vague, but I don't think it's necessary to go into what exactly the Sangha is. It's often translated as the monks or the community, but it has a deeper meaning than that, and it's not really something we need to go into. Like I said, what the main thing that makes a Buddhist is having taken the refuge in the three jewels. And refuge means that you are choosing to follow the teachings to achieve liberation. That you are choosing to allow the Buddha's teachings, the Dharma, the Buddha Dharma, and the help of the Sangha to move you towards liberation. You can say the refuges on your own at home, but in order to be accepted into a Buddhist community, most likely you will need to do an official refuge ceremony. And pretty much any temple's going to have somebody there who can do a refuge ceremony for you. And if they don't, they'll be able to tell you where a nearby one is, or what days a person who can do those ceremonies will come to the temple. And to become a Buddhist, basically, you would need to go to one of these temples and do this ceremony. And that's about it. There's no secret ingredients. You would just do this ceremony. And I mean, you could do the ceremony in your own house, but you just would be a Buddhist in your mind and not in the minds of the rest of the Buddhist community. And that's fine, you know. It's really how you decide to do it. It's a very as long as you're following the teachings, how you live the rest of your life really is up to you. Basically, in this ceremony, you would just repeat after the monk. You would say, usually in Pali, I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dharma, I take refuge in the Sangha, which would sound something like Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, and Sangham saranam gacchami, and you'd probably repeat it 3 times. It really depends on where you're doing this this ceremony. If you'd like to ask a question or suggest a topic, please leave it in the comment section down below. And if you'd like to help us reach more people, please leave a like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And thank you for watching. And I will see you on Friday.